Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you a discussion on the brand new archetype Datascape. Now, Datascape is an archetype that we're going to be seeing a majority of its contents come from Phantom Rage, the set after Rise of the Duelist. And this archetype looks really interesting. At first, I thought this was going to be like the wind equivalent to Salamangreat, and you'll see why when we get to the artwork of some of these cards. But there's actually a lot more to it than that, and so I'm not even going to make you guys wait any longer. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So the reason why I said a majority of these cards come from Phantom Rage is because the first one we saw was actually a jump promo, as a matter of fact, Datascape Princess Niang Niang, and I'm probably going to butcher a lot of the pronunciation of these, so apologies in advance, but that is going to be our first card we're going to talk about. It is a Wind Psychic Effect monster, level 3, 1500 attack and defense. You can only use the first and second effects once per turn each. If a level 3 monster or monsters is normal or special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card, and if you do, it is treated as a tuner, but banish it when it leaves the field. You cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except level or rank 3 or higher monsters. So that clause is really important because it basically means you can't go into Link monsters, and that's a way for you to not be able to abuse this going into like Crystron, Halki, Fibrax, different things like that. So it's interesting that even though like Link monsters are kind of like the forefront of Yu-Gi-Oh!, this archetype prevents you from pretty much going into any of them if you want to use any of their special summoning abilities. The second effect reads, if this card is banished, you can target one of your other banished cards, shuffle it into the deck. So a little bit of management of resources, being able to recycle them back, that's pretty cool, but this is just kind of the baseline. And now we're going to go into the next series of cards that we received information on, and this is going to be a huge amount of information here. So next up, we have Datascape Lady Rui Rui. It's a Wind Psychic Effect Tuner, level 3, 1600, 600, and you can only use this card's effect once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can target one Datascape card you control. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except level or rank 3 or higher monsters. Also, send one Datascape card that is a different type of card, monster, spell, or trap from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, special summon this card. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stop right there because this clause is on a majority of the Datascape effect monsters where you have to target another Datascape card. You can't special summon for the rest of this turn except level or rank 3 or higher monsters, and then you special summon the card out to the field, and you also send a Datascape card that's a different type that is from monster, spell, or trap than the one you targeted. So if you targeted, let's say, another monster, you have to send a spell or trap, and you know, it kind of just works its way all around. So they all have this condition, or I would say most of them have this condition, so just keep that in mind. I'm probably going to skip most of that. And then the rest of Ruguru's effect here is, after all that, then you can add one Datascape card that is a different card type from the target, and that card to the graveyard from your deck to your hand. So basically, whatever you targeted and sent to the graveyard, you can add the last of the 3. So if you targeted a monster and sent a trap, you can add a spell. So these cards are like highly complex, but there is some interesting things we're going to talk about as we get a little bit later on. So that's it for Rui Rui. Next up is Datascape Savant Lao Lao. So this is another Wind Psychic Effect tuner, level 6, 0 attack, 2400 defense. You can only use this effect once per turn. So he has the same effect where you can target a Datascape, you can't special summon except level or rank 3 or higher monsters, you send a Datascape card, and then you special summon this card. Then you can special summon from your graveyard one Datascape monster with a different name than the card you sent to the graveyard, but its effects are negated. So this is a good way just to get monsters back to the field. We already see it's very easy to dump monsters into the graveyard with these cards, so Lao Lao is a way to just get even more field presence and start building towards some of your bigger plays. Next up, we have Datascape Jiji. Again, apologies on the pronunciation here. This is an Earth Worm effect monster, level 3, 1000 attack, 1600 defense. Very interesting combination of Psychic Wind and Earth Worm, just something to keep note of. Again, once per turn effect. It has the same summoning conditions, so you target a Datascape card, you can't special summon except level rank 3 or higher monsters, send a Datascape card with a different type, then special summon this card. Also, during the end phase of this turn, you can add a Datascape monster from your graveyard to your hand, except another copy of Gigi. So some end phase kind of Skarm-esque effect isn't too bad, but again, all of these cards can effectively special summon themselves out to the field, and while it seems very restrictive, there isn't really much in terms of restricting what you're able to go into apart from the level or rank 3. So yeah, you can't go into link plays, but there's some big cards we can go into, and like I said, I'm going to cover that a little bit later on. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Next up, we have Datascape Keelin Linlin. So this is an Earthworm level 6, 1800 attack, 600 defense. Again, same clause as before, but after it's special summoned, then you can send one Datascape card that is a different card type from the target and sent card from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of itself. So this is kind of like a Foolish Burial. So if you target a monster and you dump a trap, you can also dump a spell. So that's going to matter for some other cards later. It helps for Lao Lao, I believe, the one that special summons from the grave. So if you target like a spell, send a trap, then you can also send a monster in addition to that. But I guess it wouldn't really matter if you could send a monster anyway. But regardless, now we're going to get into some of the extra deck cards here. So this is Datascape Fox Janjan. It's a Wind Psychic Effect Synchro, level 9, 2800 attack, 2400 defense. It's generic, which is very interesting, and you can use the 2 and 3 effects once per turn each. First effect, any card sent to the graveyard from the field is banished instead. So it's Dimensional Fissure, which against a lot of meta decks at times is very, very good. Second effect, when a monster you control declares an attack, you can return one of either player's banished monsters to the graveyard. So this is kind of like a Psyframe Lord Omega type of effect, just kind of in a different way, but that's pretty neat because obviously these cards do have synergies in the graveyard and the banished pile as well. And then third, during your main phase, except the turn this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish 2 other monsters with different original type and attribute from your graveyard, special summon this card from your graveyard. So because you have Earthworm and Wind Psychic, if this is in the graveyard, you can banish 2 of them, summon this back out, so it's a recurable boss that's also a walking Dimensional Fissure. That's not bad. I mean, again, it's generic as well, so other decks could play this if they wanted to. Something maybe just to keep an eye on for future meta games if we get into a very graveyard-heavy game, and you're easily able to access Synchro 9s. Next up, we have Datascape Shell Jaja. So it's an Earthworm effect, rank 3, 1000 attack, 2400 defense. Requires 2 or more level 3 monsters. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card, then target a face-up monster you control. Cannot be destroyed by battle until the end of your opponent's turn. That's pretty lackluster, not gonna lie. Second effect, once per turn after damage calculation, if this card battled an opponent's monster and there are 2 or more monsters with the same original type and attribute in your graveyard, you can banish that opponent's monster. This is the more, the better of the 2 effects, I should say, because it doesn't target. It's something you do through battle, so it's kind of like, what's the card? There's that Salamangreat card. It's not a Salamangreat card, but they play it, and it's a Prohibit Snake. I think it's kind of similar to that. It's a neat, cool way to remove some cards from the field that might be pretty pesky to get rid of. So it's not the strongest card, but it's some pretty cool synergy nonetheless. Next up, we have Datascape Phoenix Fang Fang. So it's an Earthworm effect, rank 6, 2600 attack, 2000 defense, 2 or more level 6 monsters to make. All these are generic. That's also pretty neat. You can only use this second effect once per turn. Once per turn, you can detach 2 materials from this card, then target a face-up card your opponent controls, and 1 card in either graveyard, banish them. I wish this was a quick effect. I think that would just make it a lot better, but it's still generic rank 6 removal at the very least, and it's like a DD Crow on top of it. But again, if it was a quick effect, that would be infinitely better. Second effect, which is the once per turn effect, if this card is Xyz summoned, is destroyed by an opponent's attacking monster's attack or an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 2 Datascape monsters with the same original type and attribute from your deck. So it is a little bit conditional for how it has to be destroyed, but if your opponent doesn't deal with it in the right way, you get to plus, so that's pretty cool. And now we're getting into some spell cards here. We have Datascape Capital Zhulong, so it's a normal spell. You can only activate 1 card with this card's name per turn. Place 1 Datascape Gate card directly from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone, then apply the following effects in sequence based on how many Datascape Gate cards you control. So if you have 2 or more, monsters you control gain 200 attack for the rest of this turn. 3 or more, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. As we've seen, these cards being in the graveyard is a good thing. And 4 or more, special summon up to 4 Datascape monsters with different names from your extra deck. That is like a win condition in and of itself, but I think you're going to be hard pressed to really get there. I guess if the game goes long, it's a win condition you could slowly work towards, but I wouldn't count on that happening hardly, if ever. Now we're going to move on to the continuous spell here, Datascape Gate King Long. So this is one of the ones that you can use in tandem with Zhu Long here. So this is a continuous spell, like I said. You can only use this card's 1 and 2 effects once per turn each. First effect, you can banish a Datascape card from your graveyard, then target a face-up monster on the field. Negate its effects until the end of the turn. So it does require you to have a little bit of setup, but it is a spell card that can negate the effects of monsters. That's pretty cool. It's also continuous, so you can do this each and every turn. Second effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 Datascape monster from your deck to your hand, then send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. So you get some cycling in terms of what you want. It does have to hit the graveyard, but obviously all the Datascape monsters will fuel your graveyard, so that's not really that big of a deal. So this is like the searcher of the deck, and frankly, it's a pretty good one at that. Also, the capital can place any of these in your spell and trap zone face up, so that's pretty cool that you have 6 ways to access the searcher, if you want to call it that. You just have to find ways to dump it into the graveyard at that point, but the effect negation also being built into the searcher is very good. And then next we have the continuous trap Datascape Gate, Zhukue. Again, I'm going to completely butcher these pronunciations, but it's a continuous trap. You can only use the effects once, first and second effects once per turn each. You can target a face-up card on the field, shuffle 2 of your banished Datascape cards with different names into the deck, then destroy that target. This is pretty cool because it's a trap, and also the fact that you get to recycle your resources and you get to destroy it. I wish it banished, it'd be a little bit better, but destroying is fine. It's a face-up card, not just monster, so I guess that makes it a little bit better, but it has to be face up, which is also kind of unfortunate. Second effect, during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target a Datascape monster you control, have it either gain or lose 3 levels or ranks. This is pretty big because as we've seen, there's a lot of 3s and 6s, and there's rank 3s, there's synchro 9s, there's rank 6s, so this allows you to manipulate what the levels of your monsters are, and then allow you to set up for those specific plays. I think that's it for this page. There's a couple other cards I want to talk about, though. Datascape Beast Juju, so it's a Wind Psychic, Synchro, level 6, 2400 attack, 1700 defense. Again, it's generic. You can only use this card's second effect once per turn. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect while you have 2 or more monsters with different names, but the same original type and attribute in your graveyard. And the second effect, you can banish 2 monsters with different names, but the same original type and attribute from your graveyard. Target a card on the field, send it to the graveyard. That's a pretty nice piece of removal. It does target, but it sends, so that kind of like makes up for the fact that it targets. Pretty good card overall. And then we also have Datascape Dragon Long Long. It's a rank 3 Earthworm effect, 2400 attack, 2000 defense. It requires 2 level 3 monsters with the same original type and attribute. So a little bit more specific than what we've seen. However, you cannot target this card that has material with card effects. So that's not bad, but the second effect, when your opponent activates the effect of a monster whose attribute is not on the field while they control a face-up monster, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card, negate that activation. So it is a way to put up a negation in this deck as well, albeit it is a bit conditional. It still gives the deck a lot of variety in terms of the extra deck choices and what you can kind of use in terms of if you need removal, if you need negation, if you need a dimensional fissure on legs. Like, there's so many different options for the extra deck. And the last card I want to cover is Datascape Rabbit Tutu. This was actually just the most recent card that was debuted, and it was actually another jump promo, as a matter of fact. So it's an Earthworm, level 6, 1200 attack, 1800 defense. You can only use the second effect once per turn. If you control no monsters or all monsters you control are Psychic and or Wyrm monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. If this card is in your graveyard, you can discard a Psychic or Wyrm monster, special summon this card, and if you do, it is treated as a tuner, but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn, except level or rank 3 or higher monsters. So again, when you look at this archetype overall, it does seem very wordy. It does seem like there's kind of a lot of hoops to jump through, but I think there's a lot of potential here, and I really think they're trying to push this deck into being one of the better decks once we get to the Phantom Rage era. One of the things that may not be the first thing you notice when it comes to this archetype is the fact that it goes into Synchro 9s very easily, and why that matters is because not only are Synchro 9s strong, I mean, it's a walking dimensional fissure, like I said, that can also bring itself back, but you can overlay into True King of all Calamities. It doesn't give you any restrictions on staying within the Wind or Earth archetypes, and True King of all Calamities, basically anytime you see any way to easily get into level 9 monsters, you should immediately think True King of all Calamities, and it is very easy for this deck to stick one of those to the field, and just for that reason alone, because I personally feel that Calamities is a ban-worthy card, I think this archetype will see play. I think the jury's still out on if this is going to be like tier 1, but this deck has a lot of explosivity. It really doesn't restrict you too much, because as long as you're playing a lot of the cards within the archetype, you can special summon like all of these monsters in a turn and just swarm the field. You've got a lot of very good tools for removal. You've got some nice battle tricks. You've got effect negation. Again, you have a walking dimensional fissure. The tools are all there, and not to mention True King of all Calamities essentially being your win condition, because if you can stick that turn 1, turn 2, you can just swarm with all the guys and just beat in for an OTK. I think there's definitely potential here. We'll just have to see, time will tell, but it's a pretty cool looking archetype, and I really can't wait to see what happens with it. So guys, that's gonna wrap up this video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about the new Datascape archetype. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.